Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. My name is Ivik Wolf, and our guest this evening is Tempio-kun.
Hello!
Or Tempo. We're going to call him Tempo. And my co-host today is Scratch.
As usual.
As usual.
Can't get away.
We'd like to welcome you guys here at 8 o'clock in the evening.
CAT.
Lost my CAT, yeah. 6 o'clock CET. No, 6 o'clock GMT. 7 o'clock CET. 1 p.m. EST.
Do you guys
12.
have that dumbass daylight savings thing going on now?
No, they don't have it. No. It's 1 o'clock. It should be 12 o'clock where he is right now.
Yes, it is noon where I am.
High noon. What a wonderful time, actually. I think that's a very it's a very wonderful time for a hat-wearing man from the Midwest.
Although
Middlesex.
we are from, technically, North Dakota is the Northern Plains.
So
the Midwesterners wouldn't like it that we are counted among them. We are the Northern Plains because we are up against Canada.
And so Canadian.
Canada.
We were talking before about how my state only screws up its finances when it tries to be capitalist. But as long as it's being socialist, it is just fine.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it's like the only functioning socialism in North America. Well, I guess Canada. It's a socialist as Canada. It's not a socialist as Sweden yet, but we're working on it.
Yay, Swedish peoples. Swedish Canada.
Oh, the Scandinavians know what's up, seriously.
They do. Have you guys been reading Scandinavia and the World?
No.
Do you
What's
know what
all
that
about?
is? Oh, man. So there's this webcomic called Scandinavia and the World. Here, I will send it so you can put it on the chat.
Is it those four little almost stick figure kind of guys with the different hats? Yes, I know this one.
Yeah, so you see the images float around, but like they're basically like teaching tools to explain to you what the different countries are like and how they view each other.
Mm-hmm.
And America is a giant teenager with a fake tan.
Now, yeah, I saw in this enormous barrel chest.
Right, with like a hero complex.
Hmm.
Two comments coming in already. Sedania and Swedania.
Swedania.
So Canada and Swedania, Swedania.
See, I've actually been working with the Canadian furries on a new furry anthology. They've never had a furry anthology of their own. Because of their proximity to the US, everything that... It's much easier to just jump on board a project that's already going in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Canada has like a quarter of the population or something or less than the US does. And so it's just much, much simpler to hop on board with an existing project here. And so, like, when Sofa does Heat, we have, like, one out of every 10 artists or something like that is from Canada. And so, like, Kenket is from Canada, and Heather Burton is from Canada, and Slade is from Canada. And, like, all these artists who have done stuff, Shinigami Girl lives in Canada, even though she's from Russia. And so all of these people, like, who are very, like, talented, like, well-known people in the fandom, no one really realizes they're Canadian because they never really work on anything that's from Canada. And so when I was at Camp Farrell, when I was GOH at Camp Farrell last year, they had me, like, I got to talking with Potteru, whom I believe you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
And but he and I got to talking about how he should we should put together a Canadian anthology that is all like, call it what?
Fire, because that's what they have that side, large amounts of wood fires.
We do have those. They have fires, and we get all the smoke in North Dakota because the mountains channel it to us. Anyway, because we can always tell when Canada's on fire because we look out the window and it's all foggy or smoggy. Like, oh God, Canada's on fire again. We should tell them.
I hope they know.
I hope someone's told them. So anyway, yeah. So we got
Let it
talking about
snow.
how,
Yeah. No, let it snow.
yeah, let it.
About the
Maybe
fires.
it'll put it out. And so anyway, it happens in Alberta too, which is often a little concerning because it's where they're drilling all their oil. Uh,
God. Fair.
I'm like, anyway, and so, but yeah, so I started, contacting. Well, see, I was involved in the project because I'd sung enough obscure Bare Naked Ladies songs while I was at Camp Farrell that I'd been deemed an honorary Canadian.
Yay!
And
I love
so,
Bare Naked Ladies.
yeah, and so and plus I live in North Dakota. It's practically the same anyway. And so, because we have Canadians here, like we deal with Canadians on a daily basis. Like all of our government buildings fly Canadian flags. All of our malls, all of our universities have Canadian flags. Like
There's
it's just
poutine in the food court.
no, actually, I'd never had poutine. It was only on Canada Day that you get poutine here
Okay.
in
What do you guys have
cafeterias.
Canada Day?
Because we're in North Dakota.
Yeah, fair.
We are the official gateway to Canada. We have the Peace Garden, which is a special, gigantic flower garden in the coldest part of the two countries where they meet. The coldest part of the border. And
So, Ravensong does ask, is North Dakota then sort of an honorary Canadian like province?
it's true. For most Canadians are like, well, you're practically Canadians. When I've talked to them about North Dakota, we also have all of their pennies, because they come down here and spend money, and then we have no means of easily returning pennies to them, because they look exactly like American pennies if you're not paying attention. And so
Sorry, I love how you say that we have all of their pennies. Like,
we do.
one of their
They've stopped
pennies.
making them. They don't make pennies anymore, and so we have like when I go to the bank, they have just a big bag of pennies that they throw your Canadian pennies into, and they're like, yeah, someday we'll ship them up, I guess, to the mint. They're like, hey, here are your pennies.
Melted down.
Well, we could, but they have other things in them besides just copper, and it's illegal. Like, you can't destroy currency. Yeah, and so they're like, oh, we can't destroy them, we can't throw them away, and so they just hold on to them until they have enough, and then they ship them back, and they get like, enough to cover shipping, because shipping pennies in bulk is not like economical.
Because it's heavy.
They're heavy. They cost and so anyway, that's so what happened. But North Dakota, it has the Peace Garden, which is like the giant symbol of like eternal peace between Canada and
North Dakota.
North Dakota, and it is where it was built after Canada invaded us that one time, and before Canada planned to invade us that other time, and so like. Yeah, the War of 1812, they invaded and burned down the White House.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the Canadians are very much like the French in essence. Scratch does the French accent a lot better, but what's it? Fire the missiles!
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know. Canada's a lot nicer than the French as far as popular sort of.
Well, I mean,
popular opinion
what do you have
goes.
to?
Congeniality.
What about, where's which Quebec?
Yeah, Quebec. That's like above the Great Lakes.
Isn't that French-ish?
Is that east, west, central?
Which one's the
Great
French?
Lakes
Which one's the French province?
Okay, do you know where the lakes are in North America? The Great Lakes.
Yeah,
the
the
big
Great
ones.
Lakes, the ones just above Wisconsin, is it?
Yeah, if you go north of that, that's about where Quebec is.
Can't go there.
Quebec is French Canada, right? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they speak
Francophone
French.
Canada.
Yeah,
If you don't speak
and
French,
so-
you're not allowed into the country or into that province.
No, yeah, and they occasionally talk about like leaving and becoming their own country. Last time I talked to a French Canadian, I was actually talking to him about the font I used in Six is Wild because he designed it, and he actually seceded from the conversation.
He did what?
Like,
How?
He seceded, like he just left he left the conversation because it did not suit him, and
Treason.
so treason. I know. It's true. And so yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure that most of them are lovely. When I watched a documentary recently about Quebec, and most of the people there were like, oh yeah, da da da. But like the very like loud and proud traditionalist ones are like, we're afraid of losing our special, unique blend of Canadian and French culture, and they're the ones who want everyone to speak French, even though like virtually all of their immigrants speak English. And
French.
And well, like you have to learn French to go there. You have to begin taking classes and things.
So you have to just have like started doing French like terribly, because that's how I would do it.
You could start teaching French and then go to Quebec and teach French. But anyway, but yeah.
Hold on. Before we move on briefly, how much of the French culture and lifestyle can be maintained in a place or retained in a place like Canada? What are the two things that you think about when someone says France? Like the two stereotypical things.
I would say like wine.
Yes.
And
bad editor.
Wine and baguettes.
Like maybe baguettes, or like I don't know. I was gonna say cheese, but I'm like, oh man, now it's ratatouille. We're just like
no, but it can't be cheese.
Oh, no, cheese. Okay, yeah, cheese. I would
cheese.
say, yeah, but
cheese is more Netherlands.
Regardless,
everybody has cheese.
Yes, very true. Then thank God for that. But like, how do you grow like there's no place in Canada to grow like grapes for wine, unless I'm
there
like
is
sorely
actually.
mistaken.
Let's see, Canadian wine. Let's ask the internet machine.
Canadian wine. Did you mean whiskey?
Yeah.
Did you mean anything but this?
Here we are. Yeah. This is a map of the wine grape growing regions of Canada.
Let's pop this into chat.
just because. Like the very southern parts, obviously.
Yeah. Although you can grow grapes. You can grow grapes here. We have a strain of tiny angry grape that grows in North Dakota wild here, and you can make wine out. It is.
Holy crap! That's like 3 regions, 4 regions. What? Jeez, Canada's massive.
It is. It is the second largest country in landmass, after I believe it's Russia.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but so I was talking to the Canadian furries about like this anthology, because really it's kind of startling. Like there's this big chunk of the earth where a bunch of furries live who aren't putting out any material that's like stamped as branded as it's a Canadian thing. And they have their own Silver Wolf distributor. Like, they have their own furry distributor there. And so I've been working with them to get an anthology set up. And so I wrote a story about basically like if Captain America was Canadian and also a German Shepherd and had a rocket pack, that was the story.
And that's where Rocket Dog came from.
That was where Rusty the Royal Rocket Dog came from. And so
Royal Canadian Rocket Dog?
Yeah.
Does he have a horse mount?
No, he does. He is not a Mountie. He is.
Make him an honorary Mountie and just have a picture of him sitting on a horse.
It's true. That will be one of the next things, I'm sure. And so, let me find the art for that. But anyway, I'll put the art.
We actually have a rocket dog here on from South Africa. Score dog. He also mentions that your rocket dog hasn't hit level 40 yet. Because that's why that's when you get a mount.
Yes.
Ah, true. Yeah, you're not an yeah, and then what is an epic mount you get at 40? Is that how
Yeah.
it works?
And,
Well, any
Raven,
mount these days, it just sort of scales by level now.
Raven
Ah,
your mentions or asks actually, is it true that Canadians are the most patient and polite humans alive?
many of them. Some of them are a little too polite for their own, uh, like, like happiness. But like, it's funny because like Midwesterners and North Dakotans and like our Northern Plains people like us, like we're perceived as being. First of all, we have no accent. Like we're very non-dialectical. Like, uh, we were the first region to really get rid of our regional accent because it sounds like this when you talk like you're from North Dakota and you talk. Would you? Hello, I'm going to talk to the furries now. You know,
I'm
gonna.
so tempted to throw in the A there.
I'm
Hey.
so tempted to ask him to speak like that for the rest of the podcast.
Well, here, yeah, like no, and you say you really enunciate your vowels, and you got to say it like you're trying to reassure everyone all the time because it's snowing all the time and we're all going to die. Um, but would you like a bar? Would you like a Rice Krispie bar?
Raven's song mentions that you sound like the moose from Brother Bear.
That's yeah. That's how we sound. That's how we used to sound in North Dakota, and that's how we used to sound in Canada. Is we used to sound like that. Now we more or less sound like this, unless you really travel out into the boondocks, like into the sticks. But yeah, there's Rusty the Royal Rocket Dog for you.
Hopefully, it doesn't sound like that.
No,
Douglas
no
asks if you want a beer.
beer.
No.
Oh, we could go to one of. Oh, it's only a small town. We have a post office and we have 3 bars we could go to for our
Yeah.
town of 60 people.
Yeah, that very much sounds like a lot of fishing villages around the coast here.
You guys have any more, like, scratch fishing villages in South Africa have a completely different accent.
No. I mean like the bar thing. Like there's 60 people in 4 bars.
Make it
Oh,
about
yeah.
7, and I think we'll be equal.
Yeah, Gansbaai has basically like the main street isn't even like 2 kilometers long, the main road,
Mhm.
which like almost everything is situated on, and there's what 7, 8 liquor stores.
It's
My
a one-horse
favorite is-
town, but it has 7 liquor stores and 8 bars, and
Yeah.
everybody else has its own clientele of 5.
Yeah, basically.
My favorite is when you go through a really small town in North Dakota and it's like there are a bunch of houses and then there's a central building that's like a dance hall, a post office, the town hall and a bar. Like, and it's all run by the same guy.
Yeah, that's all you need though. That's all you need.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
You
that's
never
how he
use all
makes
those
his money.
things at once.
Yeah,
He
depending,
has to have all 5 bars run at the same time.
yeah, and
There you
depending on how progressive the town is, it doesn't even need a church.
No. Well,
Or
we're losing those rapidly. So
I said
like,
progressive. I probably mean like heathenistic.
no. That's it's quite accepted here to like the progressives are significantly less religious. Like we lost our only synagogue. We lost one of our 2 Mormon temples. We lost that in the last few years here. We lost. What else did we lose? There's like a number of them have really closed.
How do you
Like,
lose a Mormon temple? It's like huge.
they went away. Well, yeah, but they didn't lose the building. They left. They stopped going, and then public radio bought it and took it over.
Cool. Temple radio.
Temple
I know.
radio.
I was on it. I was on it twice. I got to normally no non-Mormons are allowed in a Mormon facility, and so and when they showed them initially, like for inspections and things, they had everybody wear like little boots and things so they wouldn't actually touch it, and so because they weren't Mormons, and so but now then since they left and they sold it to National Public Radio, I've been interviewed there twice.
Stomp, stomp, stomp. Defy.
Right. I mean, really, like, oh, I mean, this place is only okay. Like, I mean, it's got a bunch of offices and things. Like,
I
oh,
could just imagine somebody just sort of like installs a coffee machine and like 5 different vending machines with nothing but energy drink in them, and then like a cigarette machine somewhere off in the one corner.
right. Although you can't have, there are no cigarette machines here anymore. Not since like the 40s or 50s, because kids would just walk up and buy them.
But
Of
you put
course.
them into bars. That's a thing. Like you
Yeah,
put
but
Oh
the
yeah,
the
because kids
machine
can't go
a
into
bar
bars.
only
Kids
into a
can't,
bar.
kids can't get into bars.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
What?
Where are you from? Like, when was the last time like,
When was the
We were
last
in a
time I was
bar.
at a bar? Last
Yeah.
night. What's the problem? Um,
How many children?
And did you see any high schoolers there or preschoolers?
No. Preschoolers? No, maybe.
Like,
I used to be a bouncer, dude. Like I had to card people.
Yeah.
we didn't talk about Jimmy. His mom had a rough time.
Yeah, look, Jimmy just sort of sits there and enjoys his Coke because they won't serve him anything else. Sometimes they pour in a little splash of whiskey and then he's all right.
That fetal
but-
alcohol syndrome, man.
Dude, wow. Take Jimmy to the bar and make sure that he gets a little bit of whiskey so he can go to sleep. I'm gonna stop talking now because people actually do that.
Okay, I was gonna say, is Jimmy a fetus?
Nope.
No.
It's like-
Oh, okay.
But it is called FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome.
Ah, yes.
Which is
So-
wonderful.
Right. So to go back to furry things,
Yes, please.
since that's a different thing that starts with an F. That is brought to you by the letter F today. This is what our podcast. But furry, F is also for furry. And so the requirements for this anthology were that the artist or like the illustrator or author has to be either like born in Canada or have lived there for years, or like, and also that their story has to be uniquely Canadian. So like Rue had put forth that he's like, I don't care if it's set on Mars, it still has to feel like a Canadian story.
Well, Mars would be New Canada.
It would be New Canada. It's already red. They just need to get a white stripe with around a maple leaf shape there, and it'll just be very Canadian.
First terraforming.
Just get snow
Just a
right
star.
there. Right. Not a star. It's a maple leaf.
Yeah.
Ah. Leaves, stars, whatever. They're the same.
No, the
Look at all those pretty leaves in the sky. So I've been contacting like Slipwolf and Kaz and KHAZ, and then who else? Like I think Ocean was one of them, and then I'm trying to get Slate to actually write a story for it, and then get Rue to write a story for it. And so what we're thinking is like, and we went through a bunch of names. Actually, I need to read you the names because the names are glorious. One second here. We had a working list of names to use for the anthology. Because like if you guys were going to name a furry anthology in Canada, what would you name it?
Fire Heat.
Fire Heat. See, okay, so that's a more recent one where Canada's on fire.
Yeah.
We were gonna name it. I had a bunch of really good ones. Like, they start out kind of boring, like Paw Prints, but then like there's a line in the Canadian anthem that's like strong and free, and so I was like strong and furry, and then
Oh God.
right, and then there's another one. Oh, fur drama was another one in the contention. Hot chocolate mousse was another one. That one, I like that one.
I do.
I know. I like that one. They didn't vote. No one wanted it but me. Let's
Hot
see.
chocolate mousse.
Mousse.
You could call it for some of the comments from the peanut gallery. You can call it Fraples.
Fraples. That sounds like a snack.
Maple
I don't know.
trees or fur apples. Yeah.
I don't know if we want like fur and maple syrup in the same thing. It sounds messy.
Well,
It'd be really hard to clean all the fraples. Look at all these fraples. They're very sticky.
and then there's well, I mean, the thing is,
They're always sticky though.
Sofa Wolf, Heat, Sticky, Maple
Ah,
Syrup,
true.
and Fur.
True.
I think that this works.
It's true. The other ones that I came up with were like wildlife, but that one sounded not polite enough.
Paul T.
Furinata.
Furinata. See, like they're great,
Yeah.
but they have to. Whoa, we're partying.
My apologies, my phone rang.
but ask that person what they would name a Canadian furry anthology. Um, we also considered naming it like Aurora. One of my other favorites was Tails and Toques. A toque is like a knitted hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of cool.
I think
Yeah,
part
I
of
was
it
going to name it
mentioned
that.
Toques one day.
Oh, that Tails and Toques. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were going to name it that, and then like we decided that we didn't want to be explaining for the next 10 years what a toque was to people who don't live in Canada. Because it's spelled in a French way. It's spelled Tuqueus. And depending on where in Canada you live, you say it differently. Sometimes people say it more like toque. But a toque is actually a chef's hat. Like it's spelled differently. And
That-
so
Sounds so pretentious, but yeah.
you could have a toque. You
Toque.
could have a toque toque. You could have a toque toque that's like a knitted hat, I'm sure, with like a chef's mushroom top.
A knitted chef's hat. Wow.
Yeah, that'd be good. There, you could cook outside with that in the winter.
Covers the ears.
Like I'm barbecuing at like 40 below out here, and you gotta freeze the meat right in there. Freezes all the juices right inside the meat there to seal in the flavor.
Like
Don't
like
you know?
snow is piled like 3 feet high next to you. Just take a beer right out of it.
Right, you're like, oh, there you go, have a beer.
Your fridge is your outside back garden.
Right, don't you know? Well, and so like it's you gotta say like, don't you know, and you betcha, and one that you can always tell if someone is North Dakotan instead of Canadian because they will say things like "oofta," and "oofta" is a Norwegian phrase. It's Norwegian, so you would say it means like, oh goodness, and so it's spelled UFF space DA. And it is like the unofficial motto of North Dakota. Like you can find it it is plastered on like every tourist item in every tourist shop. And it's usually accompanied by like a cartoon Viking hat or helmet on like a coffee mug. And it'll say like "oofta." And so like the state puts out North Dakota puts out like a t-shirt that they have at their like tourist facilities that says like "oofta, save the best for last," and it's like because it assumes that you've come to North Dakota last in your tour of all 50 states.
I heard about that. Like it's apparently a very sort of sad scenario where North Dakota is like the lost place to go.
Right. Well, everyone's like, well, let's go somewhere with like interesting things first, like like it's not a shortcut to anywhere. Like if you need to get from Montana to, Minnesota, yeah, sure, you might go through North Dakota. But anywhere else that's not the states on either side of us, you really just don't bother driving through North Dakota. You'll just fly. And so, because it's cheaper. And so, but yeah, so no, it's not a shortcut to anywhere. And so you just go, oh, yeah.
Canada.
Right. It's pretty,
Now,
yeah,
Rocket Dog actually has an interesting one. It's called "A Moose Bit My Sister Once," the anthology.
Anthropology. You guys are all about like combining words today. No, and so the one we settled on was True North,
Oh.
which is very like dignified. My only problem with it is it's not inherently furry, but that's okay. At least, but we found out surprisingly, it wasn't taken. There is no other magazine or anthology or anything currently running that could be confused with it.
Oh, well,
And so we're like, oh, we better pounce on this one because it's
What about Tales from the North?
Tails. Would we spell it Tails? Like,
Yes.
TAILS, yes.
Yeah.
okay. Then it sounds like some sort of weird, like, wintertime or, like, wintertime
Sex comp-
Sonic. Right, Sonic fanfic.
Yes!
Wow. Okay.
This must be done.
Tales from the North. The time that Tails came down and, like, fixed our
Well,
radiator.
Tails
was
is
called-
quintessentially Canadian.
Is he?
Fixed your seaplane.
He's so
Right.
nice most of the time.
He's
Come on.
nice. I like
Pick Sonic
Tails.
up.
Tails is one of my favorite things. Sonic is kind of like
Dick.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm just tired of Sonic because I'm in the furry fandom. But like he's always kind of I'm a bad boy, but I'm not actually threatening. I'm kind of like the bad boy in a boy band.
He's
Kind
Yeah.
pretty
of
much America on general
America.
points.
There you go. That's how it works. That's the dynamic is
Tails, the one
Tails.
that's always flying around doing everything for America, making sure that everything's going well and it's okay. And he's sorry that he couldn't do it well enough. And then
Also,
Sonic's just sitting there going like, I'm going to run there and I'm going to be there fast. It's going to be amazing. And then fuck my
Right.
ring.
There you go.
also,
Right.
also,
Exactly.
given the video game mechanics, like Tails can keep up with Sonic and he can fly, so he is strictly better.
Right. Right. He won't fall in a hole.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, he is better prepared for the situation, which would sound more like Canada. But no, like the interesting thing that most Canadians I've talked to don't realize is like that Canada serves an important role in moderating the U.S. in policy and stuff, in like policy and culture. Because if you tell someone, well, in Canada, they pay for your health care even if you're poor. Well, no, oh, I guess. And that's how it happened.
Okay.
And so, because if you tell, what?
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Like, sort of
Right.
looks better by comparison, kind of thing.
Right, because you can say like, oh, well, in Europe, if you want to get fancy in Europe and let poor people have dental care,
Ugh.
like, oh my God. And no, like, whatever kind of crazy utopia over there, that's all culturally different. No, like if you say, to someone like, oh, well, Canada, though, that's culturally very similar. It's climate very, right here. It's economically similar to us.
You speak
And
the
they're
same
like,
language,
oh,
technically.
we speak the same language, have a similar, like, we're both very, like, mixed ethnicity.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess we have to let you do that. And so, like, that's how it works. Like, environmental regulations will be like, well, Canada's doing it like this. They weren't under Harper, but, now that they have another Trudeau, we'll just be like, hey, look, they're not polluting the earth as much. And, so they were like, oh, God, I suppose, we have to do it too, is how the attitude is.
Another Trudeau? This is the second Trudeau.
Yeah,
And
they've elected a Trudeau again. He's the really photogenic. Have you not seen him?
No,
He's
I've
the
seen
really
him, but, like-
photogenic son.
yeah, I've seen him,
Oh.
but I didn't know there was another Trudeau. Like, this is the second president,
Yeah, this is his son.
prime minister, or whatever with the name Trudeau.
Yeah, he's prime minister. He is, and he's
comment from Doge, also part of the Peanut Gallery, actually commenting off of Skype. Says, so we're all moving to Canada.
I am.
you could, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't notice a difference, but you could if you wanted to. If you move to Canada and you want to hang out with furries, Toronto has a lot of furries. It is the fourth largest city on the continent, though, so it's a little big for me. Yeah. But anyway, but they have Camp Farrell. And
Yeah,
they
they
have-
do.
It's nice.
They
Which
do
is
have Camp
nice.
Farrell, and what's the other one again? Further Confusion?
No, Further Confusion is in
FC?
California. Further Confusion is
No.
in California. You're thinking of
FE,
Fernal
Fernal
Equinox.
Fernal Equinox, yeah.
And
Which
so
is pretty epic, I think.
I have not been to that one yet, but I want to sometime. I became North Dakotan for a second. I said sometime. I was like, oh yeah, we'll go there sometime. It'll be nice. Anyway,
I don't know whether I should ask you to stop doing that or ask you to carry on going.
carry on, just to do it forever. No,
Carry
and-
on, my
and-
wayward son.
right. Well, no, and the funny thing is, like, when I'm out talking to people who are like older folks from rural areas, and they kind of talk like that. Like people our age and younger don't talk like that here. But older people from rural areas, they talk like that a little bit. And so you start doing the thing where you talk like that too, so that they can understand you. And then you realize that you're talking like you're in the movie Fargo. And
How's your California Valley girl?
oh my God, it's really, really good. I can do the vocal fry. I can say like in like all the right places.
Your lower registers are amazing, I have to say.
I
Slow,
was
grumbly kind of.
I spent 18 months training with a professional opera singer. His name is
Ooh, could you
Clive
sing us a
Bauman.
song?
I can, let's see. What should we be singing?
Well, you could either sing
Uh,
"Oh Canada" or hmm.
What's that?
Let's
Has
actually
that?
wait for a couple of let's wait for a couple of suggestions from the peanut gallery.
yeah, because I know
Yeah.
nothing about the opera except what I saw.
Not an opera song. I mean, look, just because he's operatically trained doesn't mean that he can't sing normal songs. I mean, look
Well,
at
he actually when I took opera when I took singing lessons from this professional singer, he advised me to avoid opera and sing Bare Naked Ladies songs,
Yay!
which
yeah,
I was
cool.
already
Sing
singing.
a bare naked lady song for us.
Or I could sing that. What's that Shawn Mendes song that's really popular right now? That Stitches one, where I keep hearing, "If I'm without your kisses, I'll be needing scritches." Uh, let's see.
If we're singing Bare Naked Ladies, the obscure one I'm gonna have you sing is "Light Up My Room."
I forget what that one's actually. Is that one actually just called "Light Up My Room"?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
That was like the one album that I stole from my sister that I still listen to this day.
Stunt
Yes, from Stunt.
was the album.
Yes, Stunt.
How'd you feel out through my neighborhood? You know, it always just makes me feel good that I can put a spare bomb in my hand and light up my yard.
Nice.
Can you sing Frank Zappa's "Don't Eat That Yellow Snow"?
I don't know that song.
Oh,
Never
damn!
heard it.
Because that would be epic.
Oh, the fun fact, since we were briefly on the Bare Naked Ladies, they did the opening score for Big Bang Theory. Yes.
Yep.
A little piece of trivia there. Like I
Yeah.
told that to my roommate the other day, and he's like, "What?"
Oh my god, it makes sense. Yeah, so I when I heard it, I was like, that sounds really familiar. Who did that? And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, of course.
Of course, the
Okay.
Bare Naked Ladies did that.
Rocket Dog wants an encore.
Why don't we find? Is there? I think I can pipe my internal audio to that. 1 second. I have this little program called.
Remember, this is going on
Downflop.
YouTube, so don't keep it too long.
Oh, true.
Unfortunately,
True.
we can't do copyrighted thingies with the things.
Okay. So there you
And
go.
those
I'm
other
sorry.
things,
Yeah. So I was.
Well,
Anyway, so back to furry things.
yes, back
So
God, how
for
yeah.
related songs.
Yeah.
it happens. So anyway, what I was talking about was so that anthology is coming together, and then I'm going down to Brazil in February to be at Abando, which is the furry con down there, and
Nice.
I'm their guest of honor, and so I will be. Actually, funny that you guys mentioned magic cards earlier. Like, I'm actually bringing them like 3,000 magic cards
Why?
I hate you
because
by now.
because here interesting story time. So
Yes.
they are the only country in South America that speaks Portuguese instead of Spanish, and so they cannot be part of the Spanish distribution chain for magic cards. And so they instead get the leftover cards that don't sell in Portugal.
Ooh.
And there's also a tariff on entertainment goods in there. That's why like a PlayStation costs like twice as much there.
Wow.
Things like, and so what they because it's to protect like local industries. Well, they don't actually have a like PlayStation manufacturer in Brazil because there's not enough of a market. But they don't print magic cards there. There's not enough of a market and it's kind of it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, there's not enough of a market here, so we can't start producing cards here so that there would be a market here because people would be playing.
Mhm.
And so what I'm doing is I was doing this side project where my cousin teaches in the middle school here in town, and she had started an after-school like board game and card game club, and I was getting her Magic cards like to supply them. And interestingly, most of the kids in the club were girls, so good for them. But I was, because most of the time when you go to like a Magic tournament here, it's like 20 guys and like 3 girls.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I just, as I was funneling these cards to her, because I was like telling friends like, hey, give me the cards you're just never going to use, because everybody gets like more cards than they're ever going to use. Like, I don't really like that card. I'm not gonna
Scratch.
use it.
Yes, dude. I recently put my Magic cards in a box under my bed. It's an enormous box. Let's just say that.
Oh, is it one of those like 4 or 5 row, 1,000 long, like 1,000 cards deep?
I wish I had those. It's just like an entire shoebox full, a box where my headphones came in full, 4 fat packs full, and a holiday pack full, and that's the cards I don't use. Right.
And so anyway, that category of card,
Yeah.
I had all my friends in the local Magic community. The Magic community actually in Bismarck is kind of brutal, like as far as like level of difficulty, because we have some of the top players here because we have such long winters.
Oh, PTQ qualifier people.
Yeah, so we have like the 10th ranked guy in the world here, or so he's like one of my friend's cousins. So anyway, but yeah, so when I go other places, I have to make sure that I bring a variety of decks. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring don't bring out the nuclear option right away, because then they'll just never play with you again. So anyway, but what I did was I took all the furry cards out of there, like skimmed all the furry cards out of there, and I sent the rest on, and I grabbed some land and whatever, and so now I have like 3,000 specifically furry, like anthro cards in boxes waiting to go to Brazil with me so that we can have a draft like tournament. They can just draft all those cards. And I'm like, I'm not taking any of them back. I don't want any of them coming home with me. And so I'm like, you guys can have, you guys, that'll like jumpstart the furry like Magic community down there. But a friend of mine's like, oh dude, no. Like you'll really mess up their metagame down there. Like
there is no metagame. If they don't sell the cards there's no goddamn metagame.
Right. I'm like, it won't matter. Like, cause oh man, we're giving them a whole bunch of like, I don't know how old of cards you have, but like cat warriors. Like we're giving them like, like 100 cat warriors. Yeah, and like, elite cat warriors, and like actually here.
What series is that? Like what block?
That's like 8.
8.
No, that's like revised. It's here. Actually, here. My favorite one I'm sending them a lot of copies of is this one.
I want to see.
It's a bunch of sexy panther men in their underpants.
Oh, right. No, this is 6th edition.
This is 6th edition, and then there's
I actually have those Panther Warriors.
Oh. And it's what made you furry.
No.
When it came out in 1995.
I wasn't that old. I got them when I was older.
Yeah, I really started playing Magic like 2000 and what?
4 was it, Scratch?
No, much later. 2009, 10ish.
Yeah, I started 2004 and I stopped in 2006. That was about it.
So what I've been doing is getting all these cards, and so then I thought, well, what else would be fun? And so I got like, I got like a few hundred of them signed by the artists.
Ooh.
Like I just started sending them out to artists. I'm like, hey, I would email the artists and be like, hey, I'm going to this weird furry convention. Would you mind signing some cards if I mailed them to you and paid post back? And they'd be like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to. I love furries. And or one of them, yeah, but I want some advertising in return. Okay, we'll put you in the con book. Mm-hmm. Like, 'cause she sells. Her name is Melissa Benson, and she sells lots of commissions to furries. She did Cat Warriors. I will send you guys the link for that.
Yeah, there's. Pop it in. Yep.
Look, a 6-3 for 5 isn't that bad.
Yeah. No, it's okay. The reason I put that one in there is because 6-3 for 5, meh, it's okay, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's easy to understand. Like a lot of these people haven't played Magic very much because they only play Commander down there. They only play EDH because it's hard to get play sets.
Of course.
And so they're like, well, we'll just play EDH. And so I'm like, no, here, have 50 copies of Panther Warriors.
Yeah,
And so
6-3 for 5 is a little bit under curve, but I mean, it's early Magic.
Right.
It's understandable.
right, well, and it's simple. Like everyone's like, oh man, what was it called? Armored Wolf Rider. Where it is? There it is. Armored Wolf Rider. This one has really awesome art, and I got a bunch of them signed for these guys. But yeah, that one, like, it's on curve pretty much. It's a 4/6 for 5. It doesn't do anything. It's just big, and so, but like, you know, an XX for X is about what I would consider playable. You know, on curve, wouldn't you say? Like.
Well, XX for X was a rare from like one of the newer sets.
No. I just meant like a number, a
oh yeah,
cost.
like 1 point of mana. Yeah, 1 point of mana per 1/1 power top.
Yeah. Like that would be about on curve, I would say, when I talk to new players. Like that's really pretty much on curve, and so, like Armored Wolf Rider is a fine card, but it has really great art. And so I got the guy who did them to just sign a ton of copies of Armored Wolf Rider. And so I'm taking all those down, and they don't know about it yet, but if they listen to south-afrifur Pawdcast, they will find out.
We really should like open up to the Brazilian furs a bit more if they can understand English.
Oh yeah, they speak great English because they most of them are in IT, it seems, but
yeah, but then you think, who's that guy? Man, I remember his name now.
Fox
Just
T.
give me 2 seconds. Fox, yes, Fox T.
Yes.
Fox T is awesome.
Yeah, we had a chat with him. He is really cool.
Who?
Fox T. He's like, I don't know how entrenched he is in that.
He's very entrenched. He's actually Fox T was he's been on our podcast I think twice before.
Yep.
And I mean I think Fox T was one of the guys that Potteroo actually moved sort of our way. We were like, hey, you know, furries from everywhere. We need to hear from these people. And he's like, oh, him. Actually, he was supposed to be working on Potteroo's other podcast when he was still actually working on it. But yeah, I mean, I got into contact with him through Potteroo, and then yeah, Fox T is pretty awesome. He's also oddly enough in IT.
Yeah, IT people tend to speak pretty good English. Here's another great art that I'm bringing, making sure I bring copies of. But no, that
you can't really code if you don't know English.
Right, unless you're going to speak that. I think unless you're going to work in that one Chinese one. I think there's like a Chinese one. But
Really?
yeah, everything else. Yeah, I think the Chinese finally just gave up and made their own language. I don't know if they still use it, but I think enough people in China speak English now that they're just like, whatever. I have to learn the word if. I have to learn the word then.
And for.
And for and whatever. And.
Yeah.
And or and stuff like operators, really. But like those are, you could have a piece of paper with those written down. Anyway, sexy cat lady. I don't know why her belly button's so distinct in that picture. It's like she just finished like kind of scratching it or something. I don't know why.
Would it be
the fur is,
more
like,
out then?
Well, no, but you think it'd be relatively smooth. Like you look at a cat's stomach and it's relatively smooth. You don't really see like a distinct navel.
No,
But
no.
I think the person was just the artist was just showing off. They're like, no, I actually proportioned this correctly. I know where the navel is.
You know where what these cats actually remind me of? Have you ever played Quest for Glory? I think it's 2 or 3. I think it was 3. The one where you're in Africa.
Nope. I don't even know what Quest for Glory is, to be honest.
It is an
Oh
old
my
video
God,
game.
Scratch. Quest for Glory was awesome. I played it because I only had an AMD 6 for about 4 years.
Text adventure.
Yeah, not necessarily just text adventure, but yeah.
There's an illustration. There's a visual aid for those of you playing at home.
Yeah. And then Quest
It
for
has the
Glory
cat.
4 was based on, it was werewolves in Transylvania.
Okay.
So anyway, Also, I'm running a I'm setting up to run a World of Darkness Werewolf the Apocalypse RPG, like tabletop RPG, for my friends, and so we're setting it up so that like and like as soon as I said like, oh, it'll be werewolf, like, are you guys familiar with that setting, like the Werewolf the Apocalypse, like White Wolf games? They made Vampire the Masquerade.
Ooh. Yeah, I know sort of the vampire. No, I don't know the werewolf setting though. I know
So
vampires.
the premise of it is similar to the vampire one, where like it's our world, but worse. And then also there are werewolves, which makes it better. And so, but they're secret. Like they're like humans. If they see like a werewolf run across the road, they'll go, "Oh wow, what a big dog! Jeez,"
Okay.
and that they'll just like they have like a mental block. And then so that's your one like way you can get by in as a werewolf in society is like if you transform and someone glimpses you, they're gonna like write it off. But if you like reveal yourself and like are standing there and they're like, "Whoa," or they get you on camera, then they'll start to like put the pieces together or go crazy or whatever.
Sounds kind of Wolf's Rainy.
Yeah, yeah, and like it's kind of like that. Like you're always transforming to do different things, and because you can shift from like human to wolf to sexy furry,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Anyway,
and yeah, like there are different places you can be. There are 5 stages. There's actual wolf. There's like normal wolf. There's like gigantic dire wolf. There's like muscle fur, and then there's regular like either anime wolf girl or like regular anthro,
Like
and then there's
the charisma model.
yeah, but
Okay.
and so anyway, I mean, you can shift to any of those 5, and they have different stats. But anyway, I've been throwing in other like races in there. So like kitsune, you can play as a kitsune and stuff like that in the game, and you can play as like a coyote shifter or a raven shifter. And then I decided that the British Isles, like they talk about how like the British Isles are isolated in the games because it's hard to like wolves do not like there are no wolf populations there, and it's like across the sea, so you can't just like go there as a wolf. And so I was like envisioning like that when the werewolves like have their worldwide meeting to talk about what they're gonna do, they like they're like, oh god, the British guys are gonna show up, and they're like were-corgis.
um,
And they actually get smaller when they transform. They're like, woo! And they get like little.
Oh.
And
Red
punchy.
Riser actually asks what game this is.
This is Werewolf the Apocalypse. There's also Werewolf the Forsaken, which is the new version. It's mechanically very similar, but has different flavor. I like the older one from the late 90s better and early 2000s better, which is called Werewolf the Apocalypse. It is by White Wolf Games. Here, I'll find you the White Wolf wiki.
Oh, speaking of White Wolf games, you mentioned Vampire Masquerade. The rights to the sort of the video game rendition of Vampire the Masquerade, like the Bloodlines came from, has been bought by, I believe, Paradox. So we'll be seeing another Vampire Masquerade game soonish.
Did they buy all of the rights or just the video game rights?
I'm unclear.
Because the people who do EVE Online, the space video game, had bought White Wolf previously.
Oh.
And so I don't know it. And then they didn't like do anything with it. They were planning all these cool things. Like they were testing out. That's why EVE Online got like a new character generator, even though it's space.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were testing it out for the World of Darkness games.
Mm-hmm.
But then they kind of haven't done anything with it. And so, whatever. We'll get some Icelandic furries on that. Let them go and figure out what's going on with CCP.
Oh yeah, CCP. Sorry, not NCSoft. NCSoft was Guild Wars.
Speaking about what's the word? Were-corgis. My sister at one point drew a picture. I think it was back in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Like this little comic. I'm trying to find it right now. I'm not even sure if it's on anymore. But she she drew what did she call it? It was a Pomeranian that was bitten by a werewolf that became a were-Pomeranian.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Not a Vampiranian.
No.
Oh,
I am
and
honest.
so
These vampire things.
yeah. So anyway, but that's what I'm prepping for that, and then but yeah, guys, the werewolf, the apocalypse, and like the White Wolf wiki in general, is fairly extensive, and I sent the link here, but it's cool. Like you can find like the basic stuff online. I'm sure the PDFs are somewhere. I think you can get them on. If you want to get them legitimately, which I would encourage, you could get them through DriveThruRPG. Otherwise, I'm sure that someone on the internet will find you the file for free. But
No. Go ahead.
no.
Like the only thing is, like, I've never actually like played a proper like tabletop RPG. I'm very like pissed about that though.
Well, then there's no time like the present.
Yeah, true. I just need to set
White
it
Wolf
aside.
is actually the vampire and werewolf ones are actually very simple. You have a set of stats
Mm-hmm.
that you get like 9 stats, and it's basically like strength, agility, blah 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 blah, intelligence, things like that. And then you have skills, which are like it's like attributes and skills is what they call them. And so skills are things like computer use. And so normally you go and then you always roll one and then the other to see, and they're all d10s. And how many ranks you have in them is how many dots you fill in up to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, so you'll be like, okay, well, normally I need to use intelligence and computer use together. But once in a while, you'll need to use something else and computer use to do something. So, like installing a new OS update would be an intelligence plus computer use. But one time we had like a guy who had to like shove a hard drive that wasn't working. It wasn't like supposed to fit in a computer into the computer in time before the vampires could break into the apartment, and so he had to use strength plus computer use.
Oh, okay.
And so
Who determines those rolls? The GM.
Yeah. The GM just says, "Oh, you have to roll this plus this."
Okay.
But and then you just roll a bunch of d10s.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
so, I mean, yeah, that's all there is to the game.
Simple enough.
Yeah, like that's why I like it. Like it's a good one to teach people about such thing, like about tabletop RPGs with, because it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But you can make it complicated. Like you can keep adding things.
You really wanted to.
So it is introducing Fluffy.
It's actually
Maltese.
Poodle, sorry.
Poodle.
I said Pomeranian, but Poodle.
Green Poodle.
I have this picture somewhere. It's laminated. It was supposed to be on a wall. And wait, it was supposed to. I know exactly where it was, but yeah. I have this in my house. It's flat.
Let's see.
What am I talking about? House.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, they're pretty cool. Like you can and then what else? What other furry things am I about to? That did I talk to you guys about the interactive fiction stuff last time?
The
the spaceship.
The spaceship one.
ship folk one. Yeah.
Right. So since then, I've been on public radio talking about that and furries.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who missed it last time, this is the
Update.
it's a link to it. Yeah, it's been updated, but it's the same sort of content.
I still need to play through this.
So, anyway, but yeah, play through, and then I should give my FA at some point, shouldn't I?
Yeah,
Mm,
that would be cool.
good.
I'll post it in the
I got it.
YouTube comments and whatnot.
Yeah. Hopefully, I didn't sound too much like the Bare Naked Ladies and get us suspended.
No, usually it's more the meter of the like instruments that gets like found more so than the voice.
They'll some alarm will go off at YouTube, and they're like, "My God, It was too perfect.
Ugh.
No.
If
Well-
we get banned because of this, your ass is on the chopping block.
Right. I
How do
sound
we
like
get banned? We'll just get one warning from the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Yeah, to start with.
to start, but no, they'll give you a super warning because it's too good. That was the prop, too good.
Yeah, totally.
And so anyway, persecution. They'll punish us because we're furries. So anyway, yeah. So
Sorry.
let's see. Working on that. So I was on National Public Radio again recently, talking about furries and about interactive fiction.
How exactly do they sort of perceive on public radio? How do they perceive the entirety of furries?
They love us. They think we're really interesting because like we're an interesting like subculture. Like if you go to my FA, and here I can actually give you guys the link here. But if you go to my FA and go to journals, just look for NPR, and it'll it basically like they talk about first of all like they do a bunch of they're very very thorough journalists, so they will do like a bunch of research before I show up. So when I showed up, they were like, so it looks like, furry, and they're like, oh yeah, so we did a bunch of research on furries, and I'm like, oh good, and they're like, so it looks like the subculture is really based around like imagination and music and literature and art, especially art and costumes. Why don't you tell us more about those things? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's like this, and in these conventions and whatever. And oh okay, and so it looks like it's very welcoming. Like why is it this way? Like what? Oh, because you can you have this common interest and blah blah blah. And they're very positive about furries. They're also like they are kind of the most responsible of the American media outlets. Like they don't let themselves they don't like to have hysteria,
That is refreshing.
and so they're not funded by commercials. They
Who
are
funds them then?
they're like the BBC.
Okay.
Like, do you guys get BBC World Service?
Yeah, but none of us listen to it.
Okay, BBC World Service BBC World Service is the most boring news-related part of the BBC. But the BBC also makes like art content and comedies and whatever else. And NPR is the BBC affiliate for the US. So
okay.
they're the equivalent. So they have like so basically like they're publicly funded. They get like grants from the federal government. They also like solicit donations. Like the ultimate cliche for NPR and the television version of it, which is called PBS, is that they will sell you like a tote bag with like the logo of the show you like for like $30. And
Sorry, how much?
wow, for like $30 because it'll be like a funding drive. They're like, yeah, if you give us $30, we'll send you this amazing tote bag, and it'll have like the name of the show that you like on it, and it's literally a canvas tote bag. And they're like, the whole idea isn't, oh wow, they cheated me. It's I'm donating and they're giving me like a thank you prize.
Okay.
And so, but that's like the ultimate like way that they get money.
Just a question: Is canvas like plastic? 'Cause
No,
we get-
canvas
No,
is,
it would be
is like a cloth,
wool,
very
or no, it's
strength.
cotton.
Yeah, like in all fairness, like a canvas tote bag is generally better than the tote bags that we get this side. I can tell you that much.
Right. It's not a plastic one.
Most of ours are plastic.
Right.
Yes.
No, they would. NPR wouldn't, or PBS wouldn't cheap out. They'd give you like an actual cotton one, but it would still just be a tote bag, one that you could get. I'm sure that they paid like $1 for, but that's the whole thing is to support them, and so they have like they make Sesame Street, like they make like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and they make all these other things. Actually, recently they've been branching out into PBS has like a really amazing YouTube channel selection. So they have like a video game channel. They have an internet thought channel.
I remember that. What's PBS's video game channel section called?
Game show.
Game show, yeah. I remember now.
And the host of it was this week. He was at a gay gamer convention. He was one of their guests.
Gaming.
Gamer X with a Y.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so anyway, but that's their thing, and of course, like Fox News and places like, oh my God, they're dangerously liberal, and really, no, they're not. They're dangerously moderate. Like they're dangerously centrist. Like they in NPR would be like, they are. I have nothing but good things to say about them, but they try very, very hard, sometimes too hard, to equally represent both sides, even if one side is crazy.
Oh, wait,
like, well,
the whole 50-50 kind of argument. I know.
No, right.
I was reading it on the Young Turks, where
yeah,
they're like, yeah, no, cool. Or watching it, sorry. They're like if you look at CNN or anything like that, they go, so the one side says this, and it's absolutely 100% crazy. The other side says this, and it has nothing but reason to it. It's a 50-50 toss-up.
Well, and so what happens is CNN would leave it there, and they'd say like, well, so who knows what's going on? And, everybody says whatever they want. Well, and then NPR would be like, well, actually, we verified what the reality is, and it's this at the end, after they talk to the two sides. Mm-hmm. And then they would ask the people like, well, so we asked you like, what, Mr. Trump, not that Trump would ever talk to them, but we asked you, like, oh, so it looks like most Muslims actually have other things to do besides terrorism. And like several of them are like, I got to go to the market today. Like, I don't have time. I can't blow up anything.
I have a job.
I have a job. I know. Like, I gotta get to work.
Working in IT.
Right. Yeah. And so they're like, I got Fallout to play.
Yeah.
I got to finish that. I can't blow myself up.
Yeah.
And so that's most of them. And so like, like the Muslims I know are like, yeah, fine. Like, I haven't even gotten the dog yet. I can't, And so, yeah, because let's all admit it, like the dog is why we are so excited about Fallout 4.
In all honesty, I travel alone. Like yeah.
Because then no one will screw it up for you.
Yeah, and no one's blocking
How
the
does
door.
the dog screw it up for you, dude?
The door.
He walks.
All companions block the door.
Yeah.
No.
The door meaning every door.
No.
Anyway. So, but yeah, NPR is what you would want journalism to be. Like, they're very good at it. They're also NPR's chief engineer in the state is a furry.
Oh, nice.
And so, like, yeah, like I got there and he was like, I saw someone I saw a like station wagon out front that had like a beat up station wagon had like a bunch of paw prints and Wile E. Coyote stickers all over it, and I'm like, they must have some kind of like furry intern or someone. I was like, so I did my interview. I go, hey, whose vehicle is that? Oh, that's so and so's. Oh, really? So I go downstairs and like, oh, yeah, he's downstairs. And I shake his hand. I'm like, oh, who are you? Oh, yeah, I'm Tempo. And he just like has a little moment, like those moments where like your furry life collides with your real life, and you're like, oh dear God, does that mean my FA favorites are here too? Like, what happened? And so, but he was, just like, oh my God, I have all of your books, and I have your games, and I have your this, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me sign some things for you here. No. And so, yeah, so he and I and Rue are working on a furry music project.
Oh.
And if you guys know any furry musicians,
oh boy.
Well,
so I got Fox Amore to say he would let us use his catalog, of his back catalog of music. And I've got a couple other people, like Rue is going to do something. But if you guys know anyone, if you or your listeners know anyone, we should be aware of, because the whole idea is that the premise of it is that it's music in a furry world, and so like, what would Fox music sound like? We said Fox music might be like pop music, where they're doing a lot of those little like noises in the middle. like Material
Was-
Girl, Madonna.
So what is this wolf music? Just woo woo?
Right, they're howling, and like we decided that wolf music is like heavy metal, where they're like howling together all the time.
Yes. Okay, cool.
And then like dog music is like country music because they're sad that you left,
Aw.
and they're like, she went to the store like 20 minutes ago.
It's just like blues.
It is. It's like blues and country, and so then let's see, but yeah, like, and then like raccoon music. We like decide we have like a raccoon DJ who's always like using his little grippy hands to like manipulate knobs and dials and scratch things, and he's like, "These are my sounds. I collected that crazy sound. That sound's mine now."
We have a dog in the chat who mentions that that's absolutely perfect.
It's absolutely perfect.
And
But what about poodles? Would poodles be like what's it? Classical opera music?
oh, let's. I never put poodles in things, but yeah.
Fair.
And
There's a lot of people put poodles and things.
and so, but anyway, they or they could rebel and be like punk rock poodles. I think
Wait! I have an idea. Just like when it comes to what's the word that I'm looking for? Huskies. You make it like hard rock.
Right. Okay.
Insert joke about pussy galore here.
Oh lol.
So right. So what it's called Fuzzy Notes Radio,
I know
and
about
it's-
yeah.
and it is because it's a Fuzzy Notes thing, and it's going to be live on NPR, National Public Radio. Here is what we finagled. And so, but if you guys have any suggestions, we need as much music as we can get, especially music that sounds like a particular species. Like, it's not just furry music, oh, it's music made by a furry. It's furry music that sounds like it was made by an anthro. So, like, for example, we interviewed, did I tell you guys about interviewing that guy who's been blind since he was a baby, and he, like, clicks his tongue to echolocate? I didn't tell you about him?
I know of him.
Oh yeah, Daniel Kish is the guy's name. I actually interviewed him for this project, not about sometime last year, and earlier this year, and he was talking about how his main problem is with music is that it's A, not high enough bitrate quality, but B, like not binaural rather sound. So like you can look up binaural soundscapes. One of my favorite ones is the New York one, where they just take you through New York, and basically it's a step up from stereo. Like they try to reproduce 3D sound, and so it makes you sound like you're in a room. And so,
Yeah, the one I know of is like the virtual haircut.
yeah.
The
And
only
so,
binaural that I've ever heard about, aside from that, is pretty much just Pearl Jam's binaural album.
well, and that's what we're trying to do. Like we've been like cobbling together. We actually I sent Rue, because Rue's the one with the mohawk, so he was nominated. I sent Rue to the sex shop to get one of those cast your own silicone dildos, and I had him cast his ears so that we could have silicone ears that we could then put the mics in a like styrofoam, like polystyrene head. And then, so it's got like Rue's cast ears made from dildo material on its sides.
Latex?
And like latex or silicone. And then and then it's got mics inside, like pencil mics inside of it is the plan here. And so and then they're putting it in a black cloth wrapper so it doesn't horrify everyone. I was going to put a pink mohawk on it, but anyway, and so then they're going to use that to record any new songs. But we decided like bat and dolphin radio sounds like that.
Really
and
clicky.
So, well, yeah, and it's very like super high fidelity, and like it's binaural, and it's like
And
like you
there's,
feel.
yeah, there's like a definite click to it, like almost like you didn't turn the metronome off kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right. It just actually, that was the interesting thing. I was talking to Daniel Kish, and he said that you don't have to click. Clicking is just a known quantity.
Oh, okay.
He's like when I click, I know what that sounds like in a variety of different rooms, and so he's like, if I'm walking down the street, not really thinking about it, I'll just quietly. But he's like, if I really want to have like a sharp image of what an unfamiliar space looks like, he'll do like a louder one. And then, but he said you can also do it passively. He's like, there's also passive sonar, and he had an interesting example where he was like, say you're walking down, it's night, you get up to go to the bathroom, and you don't want to turn on the light because it's in the middle of the night, and so you get up and you are walking down the hallway and you hear the bathroom, like it sounds acoustically different that it's an open space, not a wall.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that is passive human sonar.
Okay,
he's
that
like,
makes sense.
Right, so he's like, when I'm walking down a hallway talking to, he's like, even if I'm not talking to someone or clicking, he's like, if it's just a hallway and I'm not running, he's like, I just know where the doors are.
So
It's like-
essentially, he's like a quintessential clicker from
The Last of Us.
From Last of Us.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. He's a little bit like he's even a step up from them though, because he knows like, I suppose like they don't have eyes. So yeah, but like he's a step up in ability though from that, because he can do things like determine like who's holding an object. Like if a couple people are in front of him and they're like, "Oh, here, take this," he'll like can determine which of them has the object. Like and reach out to yeah, he can ride a bike. He
Damn,
can.
son.
I know. Like he's like does all these like he calls them like his parlor tricks or something. He's like, come and see the amazing Daniel Kish do a thing that everyone else can do.
He's blind.
But he's blind. And so like yeah, I told him the first thing because they make him ride the bike on every single thing. And so the first thing I said in our interview was, welcome, Mr. Kish. I promise we won't make you ride the bike. And he laughed because yeah, like for the last like 20 years, every interview is like, hey, can you ride the bike for us? And but anyway, but interestingly, he was fascinated by the furry angle because he's like, I've never heard of you guys, and it's amazing. He's like, this is really fascinating to me because he's like, I think of things in terms of bats occasionally because it's useful to explain to my students because he teaches how to echolocate. But he's like, I never consider like what it would be like to be a dog. He's like, I can conceive. He's like, I live in an audio primary world, and I could conceive of a visual primary world. He's like, I have never experienced one, but I could imagine one. And he's like, I would have a hell of a time imagining a smell primary world. And he's like, frankly, I haven't really tried. He's like, what would it be like to be a dog and be like, oh, no, you smell like this, or you smell like you're sad, or you smell like whatever. Like, it just hadn't occurred to him ever. And so when I was telling him about, like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, like, telling him about, like, ideas for, like, anthro things where, like, dogs would be like, oh, wow, like, they'll be, you'll be shopping and they'll, like, release certain smells to make you want to get something, or, like, different weird, like they'd have smell-o-vision, things.
Have that.
Yeah.
Raven actually mentions that there's a lady in the UK who has 1% vision and she rides at Olympic level horse riding level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little more relying on the horse's ability to see things.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Like, horses can see things okay. I don't know how much I would trust a horse to, like,
seeing eye horse.
A seeing eye horse. I think horses. It would be like having a seeing eye cat, because horses I know, like my horses over the years have been very like, because I grew up riding horses. I was riding horses before I could walk, and horses. The horses I've gotten to know are kind of jerks. Like,
yeah,
they do things like turn on the lights in the barn because they figured out the switch, and then they'll just turn them on. Like I was sitting on the deck with my friends one night, and they were at my parents' place, and then all of a sudden the lights in the barn come on, and they're like, "Are those on like a motion sensor? Why did the lights inside the barn come on?" I'm like, "Oh, the horses can reach the switch." What? Yeah, they found. Yeah, they know what it does. Oh, okay.
Or of course, there's a very very polite way of letting you go over the hurdle first.
Yeah. I've had a horse sit on me. That was
Ow.
I was helping my neighbor and I were helping basically break in these horses who hadn't been ridden in a while, and one of them we started with the alpha horse, the alpha female, and she wanted to have no part of it. This is an Arabian horse, and so they're they're extra pain in the butt. Like if you get like a Clydesdale, they'll be your best buddy. They're almost like a dog, or a miniature pony. They'll be like your best pal. But or Shetland, they're chill, they're happy. But like an Arabian, like a hot-blooded horse, they're like a 800-pound cat. And so they will just so this one was we were okay, now run this way. We saddled her up and I hopped on. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's just kind of trot along. And my neighbor was leading her along, let's go in a circle. Walks backwards, tries to stand still, won't do anything, whatever. And so in the process of walking backwards one of these times, and my neighbor's oh, just let her get it out of her system. And because your only hope is that the horse will get bored and start doing what you want, because you can't force them to do anything. And it's like a teenager. And so so she's backing up and backing up, trips over something, and I go flying off. The horse's butt lands on my leg. Ugh. And then the horse jumps up and does the cat thing of nobody saw that. That didn't happen. And so I was fine. I had a big bruise, but I was fine. And then I had to get back on, because otherwise she would learn that was the way to get rid of people. And but we looked at the ground, and it turns out the something she tripped over was perfectly flat ground. There was nothing there. It was just, oh, you tripped over your own feet. That's great. Amazing. But anyway. So yeah, that. But a pony, if you have a pony,
not a Shetland pony though.
But we had a miniature pony, and he was about, I think his back was about waist high.
Wow.
To us. He was a little guy, and he was the sweetest guy. He would follow you around while you were doing chores. He could get out of all of the fences because he was so small, because it was just 2 wires. Okay. And so he just hop through and be on the other side, and then but he'd never go very far away because he liked the other bigger horses. He was friends with them, and so he'd never leave very far. He'd go into the neighbor's yard and eat their grass and leave. And and we'd always get these calls oh yeah, your horse is here. Yeah, we know. Just chase him off. And so but anyway, although one time he did come and start chewing on the bumper of my car, which was not appreciated. It had an interesting texture. Horses like interesting things to chew on. And so it was one of those 90s cars that had a metal bumper with a rubbery cover on the bumper. And so I chewed on that. But no, horses are fine. They're great, but you kind of have to people think that they're a motorcycle. You can just hop on and take me here, horse, and
hell no.
They're their own creature. You have to know how they think a little bit to really get and you can be on horses that are very very well trained and passive. If you're on a trail ride, do you guys have trail rides up there?
One of the things, yeah.
Basically a standard track through an area, they'll take you on a little ride through these hills, and then you'll just come back. You'll just, all the horses will walk in a line, and you're sitting on one, and they never go faster than just walking.
Yeah.
And those kinds of horses are trained well enough and passive enough that you don't really need to know what to do. But make sure that you kind of, if you're going to do anything else on a horse, make sure that you kind of get to know horses and remember that they are not a vehicle.
Yeah.
It is if you were small enough to jump onto a house cat's back and be take me over here, it would just be wah. Who are you?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Okay.
I'll roll over and sit on you. So anyway, but yeah, Anyway, well, I gotta go here pretty soon. Do we have any final questions about things?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a few questions from the chat, but I believe, I mean, we've sort of said what we need to say, except for the fact that, like, I personally do not like horses because I was chased by one at age like 6 or 5. So
Yeah.
yeah, those things are big and heavy, and if they step on you, you're like your back's messed up forever.
Well, and I've only had them step on my feet.
Oh,
Like, and that's wearing
Still.
boots, and so it's fine.
Oh.
It hurts, but it doesn't. It's not like if you're wearing a cowboy boot, that
mhm.
you will be okay. As long as they're not like leaping into the air when they step on you,
Oh.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It. The reason that cowboy boots are shaped the way they are is so that the hoof will like partly like slide off, and there's a lot of like, it's structurally very round, so it's like an egg.
Okay.
So they'll just like it'll deflect the force, and the leather's very thick, so it's even if you catch an edge of a hoof, it'll just glance off. Like that's why they're structured the way they are, and they don't have like laces and things up there. They don't have anything that could catch.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and so that's why, since I wear cowboy boots frequently, like that's, and especially when I'm dealing with horses, I always wear cowboy boots. Like, that's why they're the way they are. I actually wear roping boots, which are a square-toed boot. They're easier to walk in, but they're not. The pointy boot is so that you can like get it more easily into a stirrup. But on a daily basis, I don't ride horses, and so the most I would do is go out and feed horses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would rather wear a roping boot, which is like a square-toed thing, and it's more comfortable. And mine have gel inserts. I'm that rugged that I have gel inserts in my cowboy boots.
Manly.
I know it's very cushiony. Okay. And but anyway, yeah.
Wrap up
but-
time. Let's see if there's
Do we
any
have
questions.
any other questions,
Questions?
comments, thoughts?
Anything for tempo?
Does not necessarily say, yeah. Doesn't
So
necessarily
my-
say anything like that, but yeah.
Okay, so
Except-
basically,
I
like,
also got
Yeah, except give us another
Yeah.
encore, that's about it.
yeah.
we should have like we should set up a karaoke
Oh, boy.
episode.
Yes.
I need to be so
Yes.
smashed for that. I need to be hammered beyond belief. And if I
See,
can,
I
if
could
Scratch,
do it.
I'll-
I could do it sober.
We could both be what's the word, MCs and not do anything
Yeah, there
in
you
that
go.
respect.
Dude, no,
But we
it-
can get about 3 or 4 different furs who can actually sing, and then
I would do it.
Oh, you know what we can do? You do it as what we can do.
What?
You guys know the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon?
Where you
we're
play
not
all
doing
the instruments with where they play all the instruments with like
No.
classroom instruments.
lip sync battles, you mean?
Yeah, not even lip sync battles, but pretty much something along the lines of what's it? Sing Old MacDonald in the form of Christina Aguilera.
God, dude, I would rather just I would, in that case, between that and karaoke, I would prefer karaoke, but it would have to be ridiculously sloshed, and like the first Journey song that pops up will like I will
Yeah.
shove people out of the way to get to the mic.
Don't stop,
Yeah.
leave it.
You got this,
And then
is what I
everybody
thought
hits
you
the
were gonna say.
falsetto that really sucks.
Yeah. I can
Yeah?
only hit the falsetto with my face. Like I can't actually sing it. I can just pull the face.
Ah. This one I sent. This one I sent is from Jimmy Fallon. It's the one where Adele was on the show and the Roots were on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and they play
Uh-huh.
Hello with classroom instruments. So
Oh, I
like
saw
a
that,
shaker
yeah.
banana and like a colorful xylophone.
And it wasn't there like a recorder or like one of those penny whistles or
Yeah.
whatever in it as well.
Yeah. Like
That's funny.
it's in the thing. You guys can throw it in the chat.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You gotta
And
go.
so,
you mentioned.
but I've got to go. So anyway, this has been Tempo. I just got back from MFF, which was in Chicago.
Which
And
we can talk about it
I-
now.
Well, I'll talk about it for 5 minutes here, quick. Chicago MFF is either the second or third largest U.S. con or North American con.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had like 6,000 people, and so something like that. And it was it was great. I was leaving for it, and my boss was like, "No, don't get shot while you're there." Like, 'cause there have been protests.
What?
Like, oh, there have been protests
Okay.
there but they're peaceful protests. And so, we've been having a bunch of like civil rights things here because,
Lives matter.
right, Black Lives Matter. Like people have been objecting to the fact that there are like higher, incarceration rates among like African American populations and stuff like that, and so people are protesting. But and so like whenever someone gets like killed by a police officer who flips out and shoots at someone, or like there's like a cover up of something, there's been large protests. But these protests were like on the other side of Chicago, and I couldn't explain to my boss because he's from North Dakota. I'm like, Chicago is not a single point in space. Chicago. It's not like meet me at McDonald's. Oh my God, there's a protest at McDonald's. I'm like, this is Chicago. I'm like, there are more people in Chicago than live in my entire state.
Wow.
And right, yeah, there are not even 1 million people in North Dakota, and we're like fairly large. Like, check out the map, size comparison. But like I tried to explain to him like, no, well, I'm going to be like effectively like in a suburb of Chicago, like that's where all the ferries are, and like I'm not going to be downtown where these protests are. And he's like, oh yeah, but be careful. I'm like, okay. So like the whole time, didn't see any protesters, didn't see anything. Like I would have paid good money to see a bunch of fursuiters in like the Black Lives Matter protests, because I would have gotten some media
Yeah, I wouldn't
attention.
mind to see that either.
Yeah, that would have got a lot more attention.
Right, like here, we're here, furry lives matter, and like the cop shoots. I thought it was a real moose. Anyway, and so
Circa what's it,
but
2004? CSI?
yes,
2004
exactly.
CSI, yeah.
And then Windfall, my new book, my second book, was the top-selling novel at the convention.
Grad.
So yay, go. Thank you. You guys can find links to that on my FA. You can find my entire life on my FA. And then I did a bunch of panels and things. And but yeah, like we did really well. We sold out of Sixes Wild. We sold a ton of copies of Windfall. We sold a bunch of copies of Heat. I have a new story. I have a new poem in that. And all kinds of fun things to be had there. If you guys are ever available to go to MFF, it's a great time.
Any more students than normal?
I think we had like 1,000. Somebody told me I had 1,000 fursuiters there, and I was like, no.
Jesus, that's a lot.
I do want to ask
No,
you about fursuiters, actually. The
Yes.
guy in the Confederate flag.
I did not see him. I cannot confirm that was from this year.
That was from this year, as far as I hear.
Confederate flag.
As far as it's possible.
Oh.
What was your question, though?
I mean, like just the controversy around it, I guess.
Was there any?
What was?
Dude,
there was. They were trying to apparently like rip his suit to pieces or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. I
Could be
heard nothing
over-exaggeration.
about it and saw nothing of it until after I left on Monday. Like, was the first I heard of it, and anybody I knew at the con heard of it. I don't think I think I would have heard of it. I'm friends with a couple people on security there, the Dorsai people, and so I probably would have heard if anything crazy happened there. But I think the only emergency we had that whole time was someone had some sort of medical thing. But yeah, no, after the chlorine thing last year, the cops were there in force, and so we were pretty well guarded that this year. I don't know really of anything that happened like that. But I can tell you my opinion on it is the Confederate flag thing is like, from the perspective of like an American, is people make a big deal out of it because it was the flag of this like rebellion, essentially. Like, they illegally tried to break away, and the North really, really kicked the crap out of them. Like,
you couldn't really say that they kicked the crap out of them. It was a pretty tight battle until, I think, what was it, Virginia?
Well, and here's the thing. The South had a lot of good military commanders and no industry. And no navy. And so...
Because half the population that they had was black.
Right. And they were not, and the black people were not really that interested in helping. And so...
I wonder why.
Right. And so they're like, oh, no. You wouldn't want me to help you.
I was almost about to do that, like, the really stereotypical, like, black slave voice, but yeah, let's not.
Let's let that one go.
Yeah.
I have no claim to that one. I can do other voices for you, much more authentically. But yeah, like, so. But then the North basically, like, once they decided to manufacture, once they got their act together and manufactured things, and like, the North blockaded every port of the South, and the North had like many times the population of the South because it was mostly like agricultural, especially if you're not counting the slaves who weren't interested in helping. And so like, all of these people who talk about it from the perspective of a Southerner are like, yeah, it was a great, and it was nearly, we nearly won, but we let you guys win, or it was, you stole victory from us, and da 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 da. But if you look at it from like the perspective of like, actual history, it was really, really, really not in the cards for them. And so, but since then, they have been like, they're like, oh, well, we have our pride, whatever. Because like, you can't really like occupy a country you already control. Like, you already are in it. Like, they just came back, and we're like, okay, go home. Turn in your guns. You can't have them back for a week. I don't know. The South has a lot of guns in it, and so but anyway, but yeah, like from the point of view of a Northerner, I'm like, that's really offensive to me, like, to have like Confederate flags around, because they're like associated with slavery and whatever, and so it's I think it's foolish to try to like be like, oh well. But it's also a Southern pride thing. I'm like, well, that's great, but you should pick something else, like, I don't know, peaches. No one's going to be like, oh my God, he has a peach on his fursuit. That's a symbol of oppression.
Honestly, like that reminds me so much of the South African battle against the English. There was no chance the South Africans were ever going to win, ever. 41,000 versus 7. It's a literal walkover most of the time. And I mean, like, and the thing is that we still hate the British.
But until the concentration camps, we did very well.
Yeah, they had the power to do the concentration camps.
It was a dick move. Yeah, it was a dick move, but all
South Africa would have to get over their own shit.
Anyway, so but yeah, like that's why I oppose like such things. I'm like, I really think you guys, like when I talk to like my Southern friends, I'm like, you guys, there's really no need to fly that around. Like, we are 2 generations back. Like, that's two 70-year-old ladies living back to back ago. You could buy a dude in the South, and I'm like, that's not that long. Let's just chill out. Maybe someday you guys can have your flag, but for now, just chill. You don't need to do that. And like, most Southerners I know are like, yeah, we're not that. It's not important to me on a daily basis. And it's only the like loud jerks who feel that
until they ask them in a referendum. And then Texas decides to secede.
Oh, Texas, that's its hobby. They're like Quebec. They like to, they every few years they just decide they're going to secede about something, but there's no legal mechanism for them to do so. And so Texas also thought recently that we were going to invade them. I don't know what that would mean since we already are that country.
Yeah,
They're
there's no
part of
invading
us.
left.
Right. Well, like I don't.
Mm.
We already have a military there, and so they commanded their military to watch this exercise that was going on there because there was a conspiracy theory online. So, and the governor bought into it, and that's what happens with the Republicans. It's called Jade Helm, and it was It was an internet conspiracy theory, and they were supposed because there was like this big military exercise in the desert where they're going to practice, and the internet decided that it was invading Texas. Like Walmart was part of it, and they were all going to invade Texas. And secret Mexican ninjas were going to invade Texas, and all these other whatever. And so suddenly, it became a thing, and all of the Republican representatives from there were like, "Oh God, this is serious business. We better address it." And all of the Democratic ones from there were like, "This is the stupidest possible thing we could be talking about."
Yeah.
Why are we even acknowledging that this exists? This is the stupidest possible thing that we could be like spending our time on. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
Could you imagine if like?
Any case,
Sorry, never mind. No,
Go.
No.
no. Could you imagine?
No, this is gonna.
Would it open up a new can of worms?
Yes, yeah. So I'll put this one down.
No, just tell me it quickly.
Like, can you imagine if the population of Texas were replaced with like the people of, let's say, like L.A. or San Francisco or something like that, like being geographically that close to Mexico, like how much of a not shitstorm would that cause?
Right. Well, and actually, California it does border Mexico,
Oh yeah, it
and
does.
so and so they just don't care.
Yeah.
They're like, oh God, there are Mexicans here. It's not a big deal. Like there are Mexicans in North Dakota.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't really come up. We're like, oh yeah.
They just have to
Yeah.
drive a little bit further though.
No, they have to. Well,
Right.
the migrant workers come up here too, even. But like, you know. But anyway, so but what I was gonna say is, yeah, like we have a lot of like loud assholes, and don't listen to them.
Mhm.
Everyone. Like, do not. If you see someone on television from the United States, whether or not their name is Trump,
Ah.
and they're a loud asshole, just don't listen to them. Because like,
So
Uh,
don't listen to what's his name again from Fox News?
oh, any of them.
O'Reilly.
Yeah, don't listen-
O'Reilly.
because a lot of especially the Fox News crowd, like Bill O'Reilly and like Rush Limbaugh and people like that have even said like, "Oh, I don't believe this. This is all just hyperbole that I'm saying for entertainment. It's like Saturday Night Live. Haha, isn't it funny?" And that's their legal defense for lying on the air. But they present themselves on the air as if they're a real news thing, and there are people who believe them when they lie on the air. And so, anyway, but yeah, don't worry about Trump. He's got 11% of the popular vote. He will not be winning.
Yay.
Mhm.
So,
We hope.
well, he's trailing Bernie Sanders.
Yay!
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I love Bernie Sanders.
Good
Anyway.
for Bernie. I would settle for Hillary. I would totally vote for Bernie, but I'm from North Dakota, so we're communists.
Yeah,
Alright.
Bernie
But-
Sanders. Like, oh,
Yeah.
no, you're not communist. You're socialist. There's a difference.
Right. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's but anyway, so go buy Six is Wild and Windfall and things, and the
Yes.
ebooks have really cheap shipping to you guys.
Support this
and-
man.
And then let's see, I go ahead and check out my FA. I have a bunch of fun furry things there. But in the meantime, thank you guys for having me. I'm getting the signal from my otter girlfriend that we are late to go buy groceries.
Okay.
So I will talk to you guys.
She needs to do
I-
things for me, by the way.
Okay.
Otter girlfriend. What?
What?
Okay.
Fiance, right?
Fiance now. Yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Gotcha.
I'm in that transitionary stage where I have to remember to actually say things differently. But it's like writing. It's like how I'm already writing 2016 on checks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for having me on.
It was fun. Good to,
Cheers,
good to
man.
hear from you
It's
again, man.
It's slightly less
Bye-bye.
chaotic when there are only 2 interviewers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a
So,
little bit.
all right. Talk to you later.
Cool. Cheers, man.
Bye.
I think you want to do the wrap
Cheers.
up, or
Yeah, of course. Always wrap up. All right, guys. That was Tempo Kun. Obviously, please just go support him. He's been writing a whole bunch of stuff. He's also been working on Heat, Sofa Wolf, and what else? Scratch? Everything that he's.
Six's Wild.
Yes, it's on
Windfall.
6 Wild, Windfall. We did actually post a link earlier about his thing called Shipfolk. You should have a look at that as well. Maybe play that because it's freaking awesome. I've pretty much gotten through like 2 or 3. Any case, obviously we've come to the point of the evening where we sort of thank everybody who's been listening. So I'd like to thank everybody from furry.fm for listening to us and sort of not necessarily interacting with us, but when you do interact with us, we're more than willing to listen to you and actually sort of get that through to the person that we're interviewing. Also, because furry.fm, support them on Patreon. They do have a Twitter account. Wow. I actually saw it before, and I've actually been like linking it on our Twitter account. So if you have our Twitter account, which is south-afrifur, just have a look at us, then look at us linking them, and then follow them by cursory points of view. They also have a Facebook site, but yeah, furry.fm, have a listen to them if you guys don't already. They play music 24 hours, 24/7. They also have their own German interviews. They actually had Unsi on last night in German completely. I listened for, I think, maybe 10 minutes, and then because I couldn't understand a word, I just decided to walk away from that.
Ouch.
But yeah, they have far longer. No, they've got far longer like podcast sessions with their guests, which also includes music and things like that. So they do a proper German DJ thing going on there. It's really, really awesome. For those of you who actually understand German, please go listen to them if you don't already. And yeah, we'd also like to thank First Stream. For most of you who are actually listening on First Stream, we're thanking them. And if you guys haven't already, please support them on Patreon. south-afrifur does not have a Patreon account. We might consider it in like the next 2 or 3 years.
If this goes on that long.
If this goes on that, it will go on that long. Come on. But yeah, we don't have a Patreon account yet. But yeah, for those of you who are listening, I'd like to thank Victor, Arashi, Scratch. I'm thanking you, obviously, personally, for being on here. You know,
Like I have
well
a choice.
done. Yeah, you sometimes do. I can't do this on my own, man. Raven, Tox, Red Riser, Doug, sorry for joining a bit late, but yeah. Darwin, thank you for listening. If this is your first time, you know, have a listen to us next week as well. Just subscribe to us on First Stream.
And if you want to hear some more,
yeah,
Doug, if you want to hear some more, we do have the YouTube channel going up. This will be there shortly. But yeah.
And yeah, for those of you who are listening from the furry.fm site, oh, I forgot, 1 or 2 other listeners, Doge also was listening, can't necessarily comment very much on the First Stream side. He's got very, very terrible internet. For those of you who are listening, who have terrible internet, or are from other areas who are listening to us from Furry FM, thank you again for listening to us. We really, really do appreciate it, and we love having you guys on and being able to interact with you on a daily basis. So, and also, finally, for next week, we have, and I made a mistake earlier, I said Potteroo because pink, but yeah, we have
This one has much
he's
more
pink.
This one has much more
Yeah, this This one has far more pink and has his own fursuit and also runs the YouTube site for Differently, spelled Diffurently. Have a check at them. Differently, they've been doing a couple of interesting skits, one including Shia LaBeouf. Not actually Shia LaBeouf, but Shia LaBeouf. Called Do It, oddly enough, which came out before Shia LaBeouf's thing. Any case, so the guy who's going to be on with us next week is actually Shia Koft, the pink cabot from America. Don't know where in America. I used to know. But yeah, he'll be joining us next week, and then hopefully, if I get everything correct, because we're going to be taking the December holiday period. I think that's the weekend of the 25th, Friday the 25th, 26th, and the 27th. We won't be podcasting on the 27th, that's Sunday, but we will be on again from the 3rd. Scratch, is that all right?
Again, like I have a choice. But yeah, that sounds
fair.
about right.
Yeah. So, as far as I know, the artist for some of the most amazing like online comics that I've seen, Ruckus, will be joining us on Sunday the 3rd. So as it is right now, it'll be the 20th, we'll have Shayakov. The 27th, we'll be off that weekend because everybody has family commitments. And then the 3rd, we'll have Ruckus on.
Yep.
And yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. We really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any suggestions, by the way, please just mail us whatever you want to sort of hear, or if you have any suggestions for people that you'd like to hear about, or if you have any kind of questions for us personally, we'll also answer those, which is our Gmail account, which is also south-afrifur, but is one word, south-afrifur, spelled AFRIFUR. So south-afrifur at gmail.com.
Yep, that's us.
Cool. Alrighty, guys.
No, thanks for listening in.
Gonna see you.
Yeah.
Alright, guys. Cheers,
yeah.
eh?
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
No, just
Go.
this
Scratch.
should be up on YouTube in like maybe an hour because my upload speed's really bad. But yeah, it'll be up shortly.
Alright.
Cool. Bye bye, guys.
Okay, guys. Cheerio. Bye bye.
Cheers.